imagine for just a second that you are sitting at your computer, right? And you want to download or share a file.
Right.
But you want to do it with absolute, just bulletproof privacy. Like
Yeah.
no tracking, no internet service provider logging your traffic.
No automated copyright bots scraping your IP address.
Exactly. Total uncompromised anonymity.
Yeah.
So, you do what anyone would do. You start doing some research online.
Yeah, you hit the forums.
Right. And pretty quickly, you stumble across this thing called I2P, the Invisible Internet Project. Which, just the name alone sounds incredibly cool, right?
Oh, absolutely. It sounds like something pulled straight out of, like, a William Gibson cyberpunk novel.
It really does. So you read a few forum posts, you download a highly recommended torrent client, maybe BiglyBT or BitTorrent, and you start digging into the settings menu.
Looking for the magic button?
Exactly. And there, buried in the advanced network options, you find this little checkbox that literally just says, Enable I2P.
The famous checkbox.
Yeah, so you click it. You lean back in your chair, you feel like an absolute master hacker. You load up your torrent file, you hit start, and
absolutely nothing happens.
Nothing. Not a single byte of data moves. 0 peers, 0 speed.
Yeah.
The progress bar is just sitting there at 0%, almost, mocking you.
Oh, I know that feeling well.
Right. You wait 10 minutes, you wait an hour, you start checking your internet connection, but your normal web browser is working perfectly fine.
Yep. Everything else is normal.
So naturally, you just assume the I2P network is totally dead. Or maybe the software is fundamentally broken.
Or you assume you just aren't cut out for this highly technical, secret internet stuff.
Exactly. You throw your hands up in frustration, you close the application, and you just give up. Well, welcome to today's deep dive.
That specific scenario you just described, that is arguably the most common and without a doubt the most frustrating beginner experience in the entire privacy community.
I believe it.
And it's so important to validate that frustration right out of the gate, because that little checkbox is, it's the ultimate set and forget trap.
Yeah, it implies a promise that the software simply can't keep.
Precisely. When you click that button, your brain is trained by modern software design to expect the application to just handle all the complex cryptographic magic in the background.
Right. You expect it to just work.
You expect it to bridge the gap automatically. But that assumption is exactly where the entire process falls apart. The network isn't dead at all.
It's not.
Not even close. In fact, it's thriving, and it is heavily populated. The reality is that it's just operating on a completely different set of physical and cryptographic rules than the regular internet you're used to navigating.
Which is exactly why we have assembled this massive stack of sources for you today. We are looking at a highly technical stack of documents here.
Very dense stuff.
Yeah, we've got official configuration manuals, detailed threat perception reports, network architecture roadmaps, and these really deep dive technical wikis from the developers themselves.
And honestly, these documents can be intimidating.
Oh, for sure. They are filled with application layer networking jargon that would make, most people's eyes just glaze over entirely.
Right.
But our mission today is to translate all of that raw data. We are going to turn these intimidating manuals into a clear, fascinating, and ultimately encouraging story.
I love that.
We want to take you from being that frustrated beginner staring helplessly at a 0% progress bar and turn you into a master bridge builder for the anonymous internet.
That is the perfect way to frame our goal today.
Thanks. And we are going to do it by understanding the why and the how beneath the surface without you ever feeling overwhelmed.
Because to actually make this work, the fundamental paradigm shift you have to make is realizing that you can no longer just be a passive consumer of data.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, on the regular internet, you are essentially a passive downloader. Someone else built the server, you just click a link. On I2P, you actually have to actively build the infrastructure yourself. Today, we're going to walk through exactly how to build that bridge, step by step, using these technical documents as our blueprint.
Okay, let's unpack this from the very beginning. Because before we can even attempt to fix the technical failure.
Before we start clicking boxes and typing in port numbers.
Right, before any of that, we have to fundamentally understand why that file didn't download in your opening scenario.
We do.
And to do that, we need to look at the landscape of the internet through this brilliant structural analogy that's laid out in our source materials. They refer to it as the tale of two libraries.
If you want to grasp the architecture of anonymous torrenting, this analogy is the absolute bedrock.
Lay it on me.
I want you to think of the regular internet, what the privacy community refers to as the Clearnet, as a massive, towering, state-of-the-art public library.
Okay, so the Clearnet is the big public library.
Exactly. It spans city blocks. It has millions upon millions of books. Almost any piece of human knowledge, any media, any file you could possibly want is sitting right there on a shelf, brightly lit and easily accessible.
Right, so it's built for ultimate convenience and ultimate speed.
But because it is a massive public space, there's a severe trade-off. There are security cameras pointing at every single shelf.
Oh, man.
Yeah. The librarian at the front desk meticulously logs your ID, exactly what book you checked out, the exact timestamp you took it, and when you brought it back.
So no privacy whatsoever.
Zero. Furthermore, everyone sitting at the reading tables around you can clearly see your face, and they can read the cover of the book you are holding.
Wow.
In digital terms, your IP address is entirely public. Every router between you and the server logs your request.
Okay, so that's the Clearnet. A massive, beautiful selection of content, but essentially operating in broad daylight.
Exactly. Now, on the completely opposite side of town, hidden away, there's the I2P network.
The second library.
Right. I2P is like a highly exclusive, subterranean, secret club library. It is designed from the ground up to be incredibly secure.
So how do you even get in?
To even walk through the front door of this library, you have to wear a disguise. Inside, there are no cameras. No real IP addresses are ever leaked.
Okay, that sounds amazing.
It is. Instead, everything and everyone uses these unique, heavily encrypted, cryptographic addresses. The routing paths constantly shift.
Wow.
In this secret library, nobody knows who you are, nobody knows what you are reading, and most importantly, there is no librarian keeping logs.
It's basically a privacy advocate's ultimate dream.
It really is. But there is one massive, glaring problem with this beautiful, secure sanctuary.
Let me guess. The shelves are almost completely empty.
Yes, the content gap. This is the central crisis of the entire I2P network, and it is the exact problem that all of our source manuals are trying to solve.
So wait, if we apply this back to my frustrated user experience earlier, the reason my download failed in that opening scenario wasn't because BigLeBT crashed or because my firewall blocked the connection. The software was working perfectly.
It was doing exactly what you asked it to do.
The issue was simply that the file I was asking for did not exist inside the secret library yet.
Precise.
I basically walked up to the secret librarian in my disguise, asked for a copy of a popular movie, and they just stared at me because they had never seen it before.
You were connected to the network, but the network didn't have the data.
That makes so much sense.
And this brings up a crucial historical and architectural point that the manuals touch on. A lot of people ask, well, why don't we just use Tor?
That's exactly what I was thinking. Tor is the household name for the dark web. Why are we building a whole separate infrastructure just for downloading files?
It comes down to fundamentally different architectural goals. Tor, which stands for the Onion Router, was primarily designed as a proxy network to allow people to securely browse the regular public internet. It uses what are called exit nodes. You enter the Tor network securely, your traffic bounces around, but eventually it has to exit the encrypted network to fetch a normal Clearnet web page and then funnel that data back to you.
Ah, so it's like a secure tunnel that pops back up into the public library.
Exactly. And because of that, those exit nodes are incredibly scarce and highly bottlenecked.
So if you put too much traffic through them...
It's a disaster.
Yeah.
If thousands of people suddenly start using Tor to download massive multi-gigabyte torrent files, it completely chokes those exit nodes.
Oh, wow.
It ruins the network for dissidents, journalists, and whistleblowers who desperately need that bandwidth to communicate. Tor developers actively beg people not to torrent over their network.
Okay, so Tor is for secure browsing of the public web, but it cannot handle heavy peer-to-peer file sharing.
Right. So I2P was built to solve this exact problem.
Ah, I see.
I2P is not designed to pop out onto the public internet. It is a true closed-loop internal mesh network. It doesn't rely on scarce exit nodes because the traffic never leaves the network.
It stays entirely within the secret library.
Exactly. It is specifically optimized for heavy, continuous peer-to-peer data streams. But because it is an entirely closed loop, it is entirely isolated from the Clearnet's massive repository of files.
Which brings us right back to the empty shelves. It's a beautifully constructed ghost town, not because the town is badly built, but because nobody has moved the furniture in yet.
And this leads us to the overarching theme of our entire deep dive today, network mixing.
Network mixing.
Yeah. Sometimes you will see the manuals call it bridging or cross-seeding or mixed mode. But conceptually, network mixing is the physical act of acting as a courier between these two worlds.
Okay, so how does that work?
It is the act of walking into that massive, heavily surveilled public library, checking out a popular book, putting it safely under your coat, sneaking it across town into the secret club library, and physically placing it on their empty shelves for others to find.
Okay, I love the concept, but let me push back on this practically.
Go for it.
Because I am putting myself in the shoes of someone listening right now. If I'm just one beginner sitting in my bedroom with a laptop, how can I possibly make a dent in filling an entire secret library?
It sounds overwhelming.
Yeah, the Clearnet has petabytes of data. There are millions of active torrents. Am I supposed to individually download and copy the entire internet over to I2P? That sounds like a second full-time job. It sounds mathematically impossible.
It absolutely sounds impossible if you look at it as an individual centralized burden. But the sources outline a beautiful sociological and mathematical concept they call the 1% strategy.
The 1% strategy. Okay, what is that?
This is where the sheer power of decentralized networks becomes apparent. You don't have to copy the whole library. In fact, no single person does.
So how does the math work?
If even 1% of the regular torrenting community decides to act as a bridge,
Just 1%?
yeah, if just a tiny fraction of users systematically brings over a few files that they personally care about, maybe a niche documentary, a Linux distribution, a public domain archive, the ecosystem begins to snowball.
Really, just from a few files?
Because once you bring that single file into the secret library,
Yeah.
you aren't the only one hosting it anymore. Other people in the secret library find it, download it from you, and now they are hosting it too.
Oh, I see. The swarm grows organically inside the closed loop.
Exactly. You see the initial copy, but the community multiplies it. As long as that 1% vanguard keeps dripping new Clearnet content into the I2P network, the secret library's catalog eventually matches the Clearnet's availability.
Wow.
It creates a massive, healthy, anonymous ecosystem. You don't have to be the sole archivist of the dark web. You just need to be part of that 1% vanguard.
Okay, that makes total sense, and it really takes the pressure off. I just have to bring in my personal favorites, the media I care about preserving anonymously, and trust the mesh network to propagate it.
Exactly.
So let's get into the mechanics. How do we actually do this? Because to bring books into the secret library, you first have to find the door. And as I was reading through these highly technical network architecture roadmaps, I realized something critical. Your standard, everyday torrent software, even the really powerful ones, they do not naturally know how to talk to the I2P network right out of the box.
No, they don't. At an application layer, they speak entirely different networking languages.
Right. So our sources outline an essential suite of tools you need to deploy to even begin this process.
The essential toolkit.
First, you need a highly specific torrent client. The texts strongly recommend either BiglyBT or BitTorrent, but not just any version of BitTorrent, specifically version 4.6.0 release candidate 2 or newer.
Yes, that version requirement is very important.
Why is that?
Because that is the exact build where the developers started integrating experimental I2P support into the core code.
Ah, okay. And second, alongside the torrent client, you need an actual I2P implementation. This is the engine of the network itself.
Right.
You can use the classic Java-based I2P router, or you can use the lightweight C++ version, which is called I2PD.
So you have your torrent client sitting on your desktop, and you have your I2P engine running in the background. But as you correctly deduced, they are totally isolated from each other.
They can't hear each other.
Right. The torrent client is programmed to speak Clearnet. It wants to send standard TCP and UDP packets out through your physical network card.
Okay.
The I2P engine, however, speaks a complex encrypted mesh protocol. They need a translator.
And the technical term for this translator, which you will see referenced constantly in every configuration PDF we have, is a SAM application bridge.
Yes, SAM application bridge.
Okay, let's break this down. Because the documentation provides the exact keys to unlock this door, but they don't really explain what the keys are doing.
It can be very cryptic.
Yeah. In your torrent client settings, you have to tell the software where to find this translator. You have to go into the network options and explicitly point the host to 127.0.0.1 and set the port to 7656.
Those numbers are the critical junction point of the entire setup.
Now, I know from basic networking that 127.0.0.1 is the loopback address. It's localhost. But I want to really understand what's happening mechanically here. Why are we pointing a networking tool back at ourselves?
Because we need to bypass the physical network card completely for this initial handshake.
Okay.
When you tell Bigly BT to route traffic to 127.0.0.1, you are essentially telling the software, hey, do not send this request out to the internet router. Do not look outside this machine.
Look inward instead.
Exactly.
Mhm.
You're saying route this data directly to another piece of software running on this exact same hard drive.
Yeah.
It is an internal local conversation.
Okay, so that keeps the data from leaking out onto the physical network wire. That makes sense. But what about the second part, port 7656?
Right, the port.
I've always found ports confusing. Are they, like, physical hardware?
Not at all. In networking, a port is entirely a software construct. It's a virtual docking station.
Yeah.
Think of the SAM application bridge not just as a piece of software, but as a diplomatic translator working inside a massive embassy. And that embassy is your computer.
I like that analogy.
Bigly BT needs to hand a message to the I2P network. But the embassy has 65,000 different rooms, which are the ports.
Wow, 65,000.
Yeah. So if Bigly BT slides the message under the door of room 80, which is normally for web traffic, the translator isn't in there. The message is just lost.
Ah, I see.
The I2P engine has explicitly stationed its diplomatic translator in room 7656. The SAM bridge, which stands for Simple Anonymous Messaging, is an API.
So it's an application programming interface.
Yes. It's designed specifically to take standard torrent requests, translate them into encrypted I2P routing instructions, and pass them into the secret library.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
If you do not explicitly type 7656 into your client, Bigly BT is just yelling Clearnet packets at a brick wall. The software bridge never forms.
The API is the translator, and the port is the specific room the translator is sitting in. Okay, so we've dialed in the host, we've specified the port. The torrent client and the I2P engine are now officially shaking hands.
They are communicating.
Right. And you might think you are finally ready to start downloading.
You might think that, yes.
But here, the sources issue a massive blinking red warning. And honestly, this is the second biggest reason beginners completely fail and give up.
It catches everyone out.
Once you turn the I2P engine on and make that connection, you absolutely cannot start torrenting immediately. You just can't.
No. If you try, it will shatter.
Shatter. The texts refer to this as the mandatory network warm-up. They explicitly state that you have to let the software run idly for at least 30 minutes before initiating a transfer.
30 minutes minimum.
Which, let's be honest, in internet time, 30 minutes feels like an absolute eternity.
It really does.
Why is this necessary? If the translator in the room, why can't I just click go?
Because we have to remember what the I2P network actually is on a physical level. It is not a centralized corporate server.
Right.
When you open up Netflix or YouTube, you are connecting to a massive static server farm with a fixed public IP address. It's instantaneous because the destination never moves.
It's always right there.
Exactly. I2P is radically different. It is a living, breathing mesh network made entirely of other people's laptops, home computers, and servers scattered across the globe.
It's almost biological.
It is essentially a biological process. When you turn on your I2P router for the very first time, it wakes up completely blind.
Blind.
Completely. It has no idea what its own IP address is, it doesn't know what country it's in, and it certainly doesn't know who its neighbors are.
Wow.
It requires those 30 minutes to organically meet people. It has to introduce itself to other nodes, map out the local network topology, and figure out how to successfully route encrypted traffic back and forth.
Now, the documentation gets pretty heavy here. It mentions processes like NAT traversal and UDP hole punching.
Ah, yes, the technical jargon.
Yeah. What is actually happening under the hood during this 30-minute blind date?
This is where the computer science gets incredibly elegant. Almost every single user on the internet is sitting behind a home router. And that router has a NAT network address translation firewall. The entire purpose of that firewall is to block unsolicited, random incoming connections from the internet to protect your home devices from being hacked.
Right. Stateful packet inspection. If I didn't ask for the data, the firewall just drops it at the door.
Exactly. But I2P relies on other anonymous users being able to connect to you to route traffic.
Oh, well, that's a problem.
It is. So how do we let them in without turning off your home firewall and exposing your computer to hackers?
Let me guess. UDP hole punching.
We use UDP hole punching.
Okay, break that down for me.
During those 30 minutes, your I2P node reaches out to a known, mutual third-party node on the network. Let's call it an introducer.
So wait, it uses a middleman.
Exactly, yeah, an introducer. Another user's node who wants to connect to you also reaches out to that same introducer.
Okay, got it.
The introducer looks at both of you and essentially acts as a matchmaker.
A digital matchmaker.
Yeah, it tells your computer the exact ephemeral port the other user is listening on, and it tells them yours.
Okay, so the introducer swaps your contact info behind the scenes.
Yes. And then at the exact same millisecond, both of your computers send a UDP packet directly to each other.
At the exact same time.
Yes. Because your computer initiated an outbound packet to that specific IP and port, your home firewall temporarily opens a tiny hole to allow the expected inbound response.
Wow.
The other person's firewall does the exact same thing.
Oh.
The packets cross paths, the firewalls register the connection as legitimate, and boom, the hole is punched.
That is absolutely brilliant.
A direct, encrypted peer-to-peer connection is established through two restrictive firewalls without compromising your overall home security.
It's like two people locked inside different bank vaults agreeing to open their doors at the exact same nanosecond to slide a note across the hall.
That's a perfect analogy. Exactly. And your router has to negotiate hundreds of these complex, timed pathways to build a stable map of the network.
No wonder it takes 30 minutes.
It takes time. If you try to force a massive multi-gigabyte torrent file through the tunnel before those pathways are securely negotiated and stabilized, the fragile connections just collapse under the weight of the data.
So patience isn't just a virtue here. It is a literal cryptographic requirement.
Absolutely.
And thankfully, the sources give us a concrete way to check if this warm-up process is actually working. You don't have to just sit there and guess.
That you can verify it.
You can open up your I2P web console, which you usually access by typing 127.0.1.7070 into your standard web browser. And you are looking for a couple of vital network signs.
What are those signs?
You want your network status to eventually say either OK or firewalled. And the manuals explicitly note that firewalled is actually fine for torrenting. It just means you are relying heavily on those introducer nodes we just talked about.
Right.
But more importantly, you need to monitor a metric called the tunnel creation success rate.
Ah, yes. That is the ultimate magic metric. The tunnel creation success rate is the heartbeat of your node.
The configuration guides state that this success rate must be above 10%. Anything less than 10%. And your bridge is mathematically too fragile to sustain a transfer.
So true.
So you launch the software, you go make a cup of coffee, you come back, you watch that success rate climb from 2% to 5% to 12%, and then, only then, are you ready to proceed.
That's exactly right. So let's recap where we are in the architecture.
Good idea.
You've installed the software, you've configured the SAM API translator on port 7656 so the programs can communicate.
Yeah.
And you've patiently let your node punch its UDP holes and map the neighborhood for 30 minutes. You have successfully opened the secure door to the secret library.
Awesome.
Now, we move to the next phase. You sneak a book from the Clearnet inside, but I want to remind you of your opening failure scenario.
The progress bar stuck at 0. I haven't forgotten.
Right. Just bringing the book inside the secret club doesn't mean anyone actually knows it's there.
What do you mean?
You could be sitting in the darkest corner of the secret library, holding the master copy of the most popular movie in the world, but if nobody knows you have it, nobody can ask you for a piece of it.
Wait, okay, let me stop you here, because this fundamentally changes how I understand that enable I2P checkbox in the torrent client.
Go on.
If the network has no central server and no one is scanning my hard drive, then when I clicked that box earlier, it didn't actually share anything, did it? What is that box actually doing at a network level?
This is perhaps the most crucial distinction in the entire process. When you check that box, BiglyBT is doing exactly what it technically promises, but nothing more.
Right.
It is routing your torrent traffic through the I2P network.
Okay.
It establishes the SAM bridge and creates a safe passage for your data. It builds a highly encrypted, anonymous tunnel between your computer and the network. You are now effectively invisible.
Okay, so I'm safe.
And this is a massive big, but it does not publish a map to your tunnel.
I see. I am safely inside the club, but I am essentially wearing an invisibility cloak. I'm sitting in the dark room holding my file, but I haven't announced my presence to the room.
Exactly. The I2P network does not magically index your hard drive. It is a strict opt-in system. You have to actively announce what you are willing to share.
Which brings us to the absolute hero of the I2P torrenting network, a piece of infrastructure mentioned heavily in our sources, the Postman tracker.
The Postman tracker. If I2P is the secret library, Postman is the giant, universally recognized bulletin board sitting right in the center of the main hall.
Now, to understand why Postman is so critical, we have to look at how modern torrents work on the regular internet.
Right.
On the Clearnet, torrent clients are incredibly smart. They rely on protocols called DHT, which is distributed hash table, or PEX, peer exchange.
Yes, very efficient protocols.
Basically, they don't need a central bulletin board anymore. The nodes can just sort of whisper to each other, passing contact info along the chain, and find peers completely dynamically.
It's beautiful tech.
But our sources make a really important technical point regarding the I2P integration. The underlying code for tools like BitTorrent, specifically the libtorrent library that powers them, does not fully reliably support that kind of decentralized whispering inside the encrypted mesh yet.
That's entirely correct. The libtorrent engine is a masterpiece of Clearnet engineering.
But inside I2P.
Adapting its DHT protocols to work efficiently over high latency, heavily encrypted garlic routing is incredibly complex. The decentralized discovery mechanisms are very fragile inside I2P right now.
So they just don't work reliably.
Exactly. So for the time being, that central bulletin board, the Postman tracker, is the only reliable, guaranteed way that peers can find each other in the dark.
Wow, so it's a lifeline.
It is. If your file's metadata isn't pinned to the Postman tracker, you functionally do not exist to the rest of the swarm.
Okay, so this is the core of the bridging process. This is the covert operation where we actually achieve network mixing. Let's walk the listener through the exact workflow, step by step, to pull off a cross-seed. How do we get our file onto that bulletin board so the secret library can find it?
Operation Network Mix. Step 1 is almost entirely mundane.
Mundane is good.
You act like a totally normal internet user.
Yeah.
You go onto the Clearnet using BigLibT or BitTorrent, and you download a standard popular torrent. You let it download to 100% completion.
Okay. Step 2, the surgical alteration.
The surgical alteration, yes.
You go into your torrent client, you right-click on that specific completed torrent, and you navigate to the Sources or Trackers tab.
Right.
You want to edit the tracker list as raw text. You will see a long list of public Clearnet URLs, things like tracker.openbittorrent.com or tracker.opentracker.org.
The public fingerprint?
Exactly. You highlight all of them and you delete them. You wipe the Clearnet fingerprints clean off the file.
Step 3, you paste in the secret coordinates.
I love that. Secret coordinates.
The configuration documents provide 2 specific URLs you need to add to that tracker list. The primary one is an HTTP address.
Okay.
http://tracker2.postman.i2pronounce.php.
Okay, got it.
And there's a secondary fallback address provided that is a long cryptographic string of characters ending in byte b32.i2p. You paste those 2 addresses into the text box and hit save.
Now, step 4.
Yeah.
And based on the forums, this is a crucial step where almost everybody messes up.
It is so easy to forget this step.
Do not just hit start on the torrent again. If you do, it won't work. You have to stop the torrent completely, then right-click it, go to the social or advanced menu in BigLibT and select Export Torrent.
Yes, Export Torrent.
Why do we have to do this? What does exporting actually do on a cryptographic level?
It fundamentally alters the DNA of the swarm.
Okay.
A torrent file isn't just a text document. It's a piece of Ben-coded metadata. It contains something called an info hash, which is a unique cryptographic fingerprint of the files and the trackers associated with it.
Right.
When you delete the public trackers and paste in the Postman coordinates, you have changed the metadata.
But the software doesn't know that yet.
Exactly. The internal logic of the torrent client still remembers the old public fingerprint. By selecting Export Torrent, you are forcing the software to recalculate the Ben coding, wrap the raw data up with the new secret Postman tracker coordinates, and generate a brand new, mathematically distinct .torrent file on your hard drive.
You are creating a brand new identity for the file specifically for the secret library.
Exactly. Which brings us to step 5, the final drop.
The drop.
You open up your anonymous I2P browser, the one routed through localhost. You navigate to the actual Postman website on the hidden network. You log into your registered account, and you manually upload that newly minted .torrent file.
You literally walk up to the bulletin board and push a thumbtack through the flyer.
Yes. And here is where the absolute magic of mixed mode comes into play.
This is my favorite part.
Once you have pinned that flyer to Postman, you go back to BigLibT and you finally hit start. Because of the sophisticated way BigLibT handles networking, you are now operating in dual realities. You are simultaneously seeding the raw data to the massive public Clearnet swarm using standard protocols, and you are seeding it to the private I2P network using the encrypted SAM bridge.
That is what?
You are physically holding the bridge open between the 2 worlds. Someone on the regular internet asks for a piece of the file. Your client hands it to them in plain text.
Yeah.
Someone in the anonymous secret library asks for a piece via Postman. Your client encrypts it, chops it into garlic cloves, and routes it invisibly.
You have successfully achieved network mixing.
Yes.
That is so deeply satisfying to understand mechanically. It takes the experience from feeling like you are fighting with broken, buggy software to realizing that you are executing a deliberate manual process of community building.
It's empowering.
It really is. Okay, so we've built the bridge, the file is shared, people are finding it on the Postman bulletin board, but here comes the inevitable next problem that every user runs into.
Yes, the speed.
You sit back, you look at your client, and you notice that while the I2P download is working, the speeds are agonizingly slow.
So slow.
We are talking reminiscent of 1990s dial-up speeds. It's highly secure, but it's a massive traffic jam. How do we fix the need for speed?
To fix the speed issue, we have to look under the hood at the specific cryptographic anatomy of an I2P tunnel and understand why it is fundamentally different from a Tor tunnel.
Okay, let's lift the hood.
When you send data on the regular internet, TCP/IP protocols generally dictate that it takes the fastest, most direct route from your router to the destination server.
It's just A to B.
Right. It's lightning fast, but it's entirely transparent. It's incredibly easy to trace. I2P protects your identity by forcing your data through a convoluted series of intermediate nodes, which the network refers to as hops.
Right, the classic layover analogy.
Right, yeah.
It's like booking an international flight. If you want to fly from New York to London, a direct flight is the fastest. But if you want to make sure absolutely nobody knows where your journey started and where it ended, you don't take a direct flight.
No, you bounce around.
Right. You fly from New York to Chicago, you pay cash for a ticket to Atlanta, you swap passports and fly to Paris, and then you finally take a train to London.
That's a great high-level analogy.
Thanks. So the default settings in an I2P implementation, which usually default to a length of 2 or 3 hops with multiple tunnel quantities, are the equivalent of taking a flight with 3 layovers.
It is incredibly hard to track you.
Right. A hostile surveillance agency would lose their minds trying to follow your path across the globe. But the obvious trade-off is that it takes forever to get your luggage.
Yeah, but let's look at the cryptography causing that delay. I2P utilizes what is known as garlic routing, which is distinct from Tor's onion routing.
Oh, garlic versus onion. How are they different?
In Tor, a circuit is bidirectional. Data goes back and forth along the exact same path of nodes.
Yeah.
I2P uses unidirectional tunnels. You build one specific tunnel solely for inbound traffic and a completely separate tunnel for outbound traffic.
Oh, wow.
Furthermore, it bundles multiple messages together like cloves in a bulb of garlic to thwart packet timing analysis.
So it's incredibly robust.
It is, but the cryptographic overhead is immense. Every single hop in your tunnel represents a layer of asymmetric encryption.
So it's encrypting on top of encrypting.
Exactly. When you send a packet, your computer encrypts it for the first node, encrypts that package for the second node, and encrypts that package for the third node. As the packet travels, each node has to use its private key to peel off a layer of encryption before forwarding it.
That sounds exhausting for the computers.
It is. If you have a 3-hop tunnel and just one of those intermediate nodes happens to be, I don't know, a guy in rural Australia running an old laptop with a terrible Wi-Fi connection.
Oh.
Yeah. Your entire multi-gigabyte download grinds to a halt because it is entirely dependent on his CPU and bandwidth to decrypt and forward your cloves.
Okay, so the more layovers we have, the higher the probability we hit a terrible bottleneck.
Precisely.
So what's the fix? Because one of our source PDFs is literally titled, Correct Bigly BT Settings for Ultra-Fast I2P Torrenting. It claims to have the secret sauce.
And the secret sauce is surprisingly simple, though controversial in hardcore privacy circles.
Controversial, huh?
Yes, it's called the 11 rule.
The 11 rule.
The instructions dictate that you must go deeply into your I2P internals menu in Bigly BT or your advanced network settings in Torrents.
Okay.
You will find configuration categories for different types of routing tunnels: mixed, I2P only, and other. For every single one of those categories, you must change both the inbound and outbound hops, which dictates the length of the layover and the quantity of tunnels, down to exactly 1.
Just one hop.
Exactly. 1 hop length, 1 tunnel quantity.
Okay, I have to step in and play devil's advocate here.
I figured you might.
Because everything we have discussed for the past half hour has been about maximizing operational security. If I deliberately reduce my layovers from 3 hops down to just 1...
Doesn't it make you less secure?
Yeah. Doesn't that inherently make me less secure? Why would I intentionally lower my cryptographic defenses on an anonymity network? Doesn't that defeat the entire purpose of using I2P in the first place?
That is the exact question every security researcher asks, and it brings us to a fundamental concept the threat perception sources call threat modeling.
Threat modeling. Okay, explain that.
Security is not a binary switch. It is not simply secure or insecure. It is always a sliding scale, and it is always a direct trade-off with usability and performance.
Right.
Before you configure your network, you have to sit down and honestly ask yourself, what is my actual threat model?
Right. Who am I actually hiding from and what kind of data am I hiding?
Exactly. If you are a high-level dissident living under a totalitarian regime
Mm.
and you are transmitting classified cryptographic state secrets that could put your life in danger,
Then you want all the hops.
your threat perception is at absolute maximum. You want 3 hops, you want 4 hops, you want multiple redundant tunnels. You absolutely do not care if it takes 3 solid days to send a 2-megabyte text document.
You just want to survive.
You only care that a nation-state intelligence agency with a billion-dollar budget cannot perform traffic analysis to trace your physical IP address.
But that's not what we're doing here. We are torrenting files.
Right. If you are participating in standard network mixing, if your goal is simply to act as a bridge for a popular movie, or a public domain archive, or a massive Linux installation file anonymously, your threat perception is vastly different.
We aren't hiding from the NSA.
Exactly. You're trying to avoid automated dragnet copyright trolls who sit on the public Clearnet swarms logging every IP address in plain text.
Okay, I see the distinction.
By dropping your configuration down to 1 hop, your data is still entering the encrypted I2P mesh. Your real IP address is still completely hidden behind the cryptographic by b32.i2p address.
So the troll can't see me.
The copyright troll on the public internet cannot see you because you are inside the secret library.
Okay.
But by reducing that circuit latency, by eliminating the need for 3 separate computers to asymmetrically decrypt your traffic, you bypass the massive bottlenecks. You get a massive, undeniable speed boost.
Wow.
You achieve the exact level of anonymity you actually need for standard file sharing, with speeds that are actually usable for gigabyte scale transfers. It is a highly calculated, rational trade-off.
That makes total sense when you put it in the context of threat modeling. It's the difference between driving a heavily armored, blast-proof military tank to the grocery store versus just putting a really dark tint on your car windows.
Exactly. You don't need a tank for milk.
You don't need reactive tank armor to buy a gallon of milk. The tank is too slow and burns too much gas. Tinted windows keep casual observers and automated cameras from looking into your car, but you can still drive the speed limit on the highway.
I love that. Yes.
Okay, so we implement the 11 rule, 1 hop, 1 quantity. We are secure against our specific threat model, and we are flying fast.
We are.
Let's shift the narrative slightly and move into Section 5 of our architectural breakdown. Up until now, we've been talking exclusively about how to bridge popular files.
The easy stuff.
Right. You walk into the massive public library, you grab a blockbuster movie off the shelf, you change the Ben-coded tags, and you sneak it into the secret club. It's straightforward.
Very straightforward.
But what if the file you want to bridge is a true white whale?
Ah, the obscure files.
What if it's an incredibly obscure piece of abandoned media, or a banned document, or a highly niche piece of software? It is so rare that you can't just walk into the public Clearnet library and grab it.
It's hidden in the dark, shady corners of the internet.
Exactly. And obviously, you absolutely want to hunt for this file without exposing your real IP address before you bring it back into the safety of I2P. How do we scavenge safely?
This specific scenario requires us to step outside the bounds of the I2P router entirely. This is where the configuration manuals introduce the final major tool in our privacy suite, Clearnet.
Clearnet. I have to admit, I love this name. It sounds appropriately mischievous.
It does, doesn't it?
What exactly is it doing mechanically?
It is a truly brilliant piece of network engineering. If we stick to our analogy, if I2P is the subterranean secret club library,
Right.
Clearnet acts as a heavily armored transport truck parked out back, designed specifically to let you leave the club securely.
Oh, that's cool.
I2P is phenomenal as long as you stay entirely within the closed-loop anonymous network. But it struggles when interacting with the outside world.
Okay.
Clearnet, which operates on the Oxen Privacy Tech Foundation stack, functions natively as a free, highly secure, onion-routed exit node VPN.
Wow.
The default exit node is simply called exit.loki.
So it's essentially Tor, but built differently.
Conceptually similar in its exit capability, yes. It allows you to wrap your network traffic in cryptographic armor, drive out of the secret library and onto the public internet, the Clearnet, scour the shady indexers for that obscure white whale file, download it directly, and bring it back.
All anonymously.
All without your internet service provider ever knowing what domains you were requesting.
Okay, so I deploy the armored truck for my scavenging runs. I love that setup.
It's powerful.
But as I was reading deeply into the documentation on LoCaNet, specifically the operational security warnings, they raised a massive, terrifying red flag.
There's a very real danger here.
There is a specific networking trap here that catches a lot of advanced users off guard. The manuals warn that if you simply install LoCaNet, turn the VPN tunnel on, and start downloading an obscure torrent using your standard torrent client,
Oh, yeah.
your real naked IP address might still leak out to the public swarm.
I need you to explain the computer science of this to me.
It's tricky.
If I am physically sitting inside the encrypted armored truck, how am I still getting shot? How is the leak happening?
It happens because modern operating systems and the software running on them are inherently messy, and they are programmed to prioritize connectivity over security.
They try to be too helpful. They do. They try to be too helpful. When your torrent client wants to connect to a peer on the internet, it asks the Windows or Linux operating system for a path. The OS looks at its routing table. Normally, when LoCaNet is running, it creates a virtual network adapter. The OS routes traffic through that virtual adapter into the encrypted tunnel.
Okay, that sounds right.
However, if your armored truck, the LoCaNet VPN connection, experiences a momentary hiccup or drops out for even a millisecond due to latency, the OS routing table immediately reacts.
Uh-oh.
Your torrent client doesn't patiently wait for the VPN to reconnect. It panics, looks at the routing table and says, "Oh, the virtual adapter's down. No problem. I see the physical Wi-Fi card, Milindiro or Ethernet port E through is still active. I'll just use that path instead."
Oh my God. And it instantly routes your entire unencrypted data stream right out through your public naked IP address.
It just opens the door of the armored truck and walks right out into the crossfire without pants on.
That's insane. It completely automatically bypasses the cryptographic armor.
Because it found a path with a lower metric cost in the routing table. And in the aggressive world of BitTorrent swarms, where automated bots are scraping peer lists hundreds of times a second,
A 1-second leak of your real IP address is all it takes to permanently compromise your anonymity for that file.
exactly, just 1 second.
That is terrifying. So how do we bolt the door shut? How do we stop the OS routing table from being too helpful and betraying us?
The configuration manuals outline a mandatory non-negotiable protocol called safe interface binding.
Safe interface binding.
You have to physically, programmatically chain the torrent software to the armored truck at the socket level.
Okay, how do I do that?
In BitTorrent, for example, you have to dig into the advanced settings menu. There is an option there called network interface. By default, upon installation, this is set to any interface.
That is the dangerous setting.
That is the lethal setting. You must click that drop-down menu and strictly bind the application to the specific virtual adapter created by LoCaNet, which is typically named Lockatuna.
Lockatune?
Yes. Lockatune is the internal OS designation for the LoCaNet tunnel.
Okay.
By explicitly binding the software to Lockatune, you are giving BitTorrent a strict, unyielding ultimatum at the application layer. You are telling the software you are only allowed to pass packets through this specific virtual encrypted adapter.
And if it goes down?
If Lockatune goes down, you are legally not allowed to look at the routing table for an alternative path. You do not touch the Wi-Fi card. You do not touch the Ethernet cable. You just stop communicating completely.
Wow. It acts as a flawless, built-in software kill switch. If the truck breaks down, you stay inside the truck. You don't try to walk home on the public street.
Exactly. It removes the physical hardware from the application's worldview entirely.
That is such a vital, advanced piece of operational security advice. Safe interface binding. Do not skip that step if you are scavenging.
Do not skip it.
Now, before we leave the topic of LoCaNet, I wanted to share a really quirky, almost funny detail I found buried in the testing logs provided in our sources.
Oh, which one?
The tester explicitly wrote, "In my personal testing, LoCaNet did not work properly for standard website browsing."
Yes. That's a very practical, real-world warning that often frustrates new users.
It's just so funny to me conceptually because you have this incredibly advanced, onion-routed, cryptographic armored truck, and it completely chokes and stalls if you try to load a simple Wikipedia page or scroll through a Reddit thread. Why does it fail at the basic internet?
It highlights the fact that these privacy tools are highly specialized instruments, not blunt objects.
Okay.
LoCaNet is fundamentally optimized at the protocol level for the kind of continuous heavy UDP data streams required for peer-to-peer torrenting and specific darknet requests.
Ah, I see.
Standard web browsers operating on the Clearnet expect a radically different kind of responsiveness. They rely heavily on instantaneous DNS domain name system resolution to translate a URL into an IP address.
Right, when you type in a .com.
When you route a complex, multi-domain web page through the latency of an onion-routed mesh, the DNS requests often time out before the page can render. The browser assumes the connection is dead.
Oh, so it just gives up.
The documentation is very clear on this limitation.
Yeah.
Do not try to use Locanet as a daily driver VPN for reading the morning news or watching YouTube. It is not a commercial VPN.
So what should we use it for?
Reserve this tool purely as a tactical, highly specialized asset for acquiring obscure torrent files to bring back to the I2P community.
A tactical asset. I like that framing. All right, we are rounding the final corner into section 6 of our deep dive.
The final stretch.
You, the listener, are now essentially a master bridge builder. You understand the architecture of the two libraries. You have your SAM translator working flawlessly on port 7656. You know how to recalculate Ben-coded metadata to pin files to the Postman bulletin board.
You're flying fast with the one-hop rule?
Exactly, and you're scavenging securely with your interface strictly bound to Lakatunzer. To wrap this massive technical journey up, our sources provide an action plan for maintaining this entire infrastructure over the long term.
Maintenance is key.
Because this isn't just about setting it up for one afternoon and walking away. How do we keep this fragile ecosystem alive, and how do we scale our contribution as we become veterans of the network?
The action plan in the source manuals lays out what they explicitly call Month 3 goals.
Month 3.
By this point, your I2P router has been running consistently. It has built a massive, stable routing table. It is deeply integrated into the mesh network. Now, it's time to be a good citizen and maximize your actual contribution to the hidden web.
Okay, how do we do that?
They instruct you to go back into your core configuration files, specifically the i2pd.conf file if you're using the C++ implementation, and look at your hard bandwidth setting.
Bandwidth settings.
They recommend setting your bandwidth limit to P, which equals 2048 kilobytes per second, or if you have fiber internet, setting it to X, which is entirely unlimited.
Now wait, why would I want to give up gigabytes of my own personal bandwidth to the network? I thought the entire point of this exercise was just to anonymously share my specific movie files.
That is the Clearnet mindset creeping back in.
Is it?
On I2P, because of how a true mesh network functions, you aren't just uploading your own personal files. You are acting as a transit node for other people's encrypted tunnels.
Oh, wow.
When you set your bandwidth to P, or X, you are explicitly allowing the network to route more anonymous, third-party garlic traffic through your machine. You're literally widening the physical highways inside the secret library.
That's incredible.
By maximizing your contribution to the transit traffic, you make the whole network faster, more resilient, and more secure for everyone else, including dissidents and journalists who rely on that transit speed. It is an act of pure digital altruism.
That is amazing. You don't just use the infrastructure, you become part of the infrastructure itself. But okay, as a user, how do I actually know I'm doing it right? We've spent the last hour discussing deep configuration files, API ports, and cryptographic hops. It's all very abstract.
It is abstract, yeah.
Is there a visual way I can actually prove to myself that my bridge is working and that I am successfully executing network mixing?
Yes. There's a very tangible way to prove it.
Yeah.
The sources call this process auditing swarm visibility. And honestly, it is incredibly satisfying to see in real time.
Oh, I bet. What do I look for?
When you have your cross-seeded torrent running in BiglyBT or BitTorrent, you click on the torrent and you navigate to the Peers tab at the bottom of the client.
Okay.
This is the raw log where you see the IP address of every single person you are currently connected to. If your network mixing bridge is functioning correctly, you will see a beautiful, chaotic mixture of data.
What kind of data?
You will see standard Clearnet IP addresses, like a guy connecting from Germany, an IP block from Brazil, someone from an ISP in Canada. And right alongside them, occupying the exact same swarm list, you will see long encrypted strings of characters ending in by b32.i2p.
Oh, wow. So you literally see the two distinct worlds colliding right there in your client's UI.
Exactly. You are looking at the physical manifestation of the bridge. You are watching your software pull raw pieces of data from the public Clearnet IPs and hand those pieces directly into the encrypted tunnels of the byte b32.i2p addresses.
That blows my mind.
If you see both types of addresses actively transferring data in your peer list, your network mixing is a total, undeniable success. You are officially doing the thing.
That is the ultimate proof of concept. The ghost town is being populated. Now, before we officially close out today's deep dive, the threat perception report rattles off a few final security pitfalls.
Yes, we need to hit these.
These are hidden, highly technical landmines that can completely ruin your setup if you aren't paying attention. Let's hit these quickly so our listeners don't step on them. First warning, never ever expose your I2P web console on public networks.
Right. Earlier, we talked about accessing 127.0.1.70.7070 your browser to check your tunnel success rate.
Yeah.
That web page is your router's master control panel. If you are sitting on a private home network behind a NAT router, it's generally safe to access.
Okay.
But if you go to the settings and configure it to allow access from external IP addresses and then you take your laptop to a public Wi-Fi network like a coffee shop, you are essentially leaving the master keys to your entire cryptographic identity sitting on the table.
Oh, no. That's a terrible idea.
Someone else sniffing that public network could theoretically access your console and de-anonymize you. The sources explicitly state, do not do this without implementing extra heavy layers of encryption and password protection. Keep it strictly bound to localhost.
Keep it bound to localhost. Got it. Second warning. Always physically restart your torrent client after changing plugin settings.
This sounds like the most basic cliché IT advice ever given. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Yeah.
But it is mechanically vital here due to how Java environments operate.
Really? Wow.
Specifically in BiglyDT, if you go into the I2P helper plugin settings to tweak advanced parameters like enabling the internal DHT database, you will notice a tiny asterisk next to certain settings.
Okay.
That asterisk means the change does not compile live. The underlying Java virtual machine needs to completely cycle down, flush its memory, and reboot to apply the new networking rules.
Ah, I see.
If you change a critical routing setting and just hit save without fully restarting the application, you will sit there for hours wondering why your bridge is broken.
Restart the app. Force the JVM to flush. Got it. And the final, perhaps most complex warning. Don't rely purely on magnet links for discovering rare I2P files.
This is a big one.
Now, on the public internet, magnet links are amazing. You don't even need a .torrent file. You just click a short string of text, your client magically reaches out to the DHT network, finds the peers, and downloads the metadata on the fly. Why does this fail in the secret library?
Because of the exact fragility we discussed earlier regarding libtorrent and encrypted mesh environments. On the Clearnet, DHT uses Kademlia routing tables to efficiently query millions of nodes in milliseconds.
Right.
But on I2P, if a file is extremely rare, say only one or two isolated people in the entire world are seeding it, the decentralized network structure simply cannot resolve that magnet text into actual Ben-coded data.
It just fails.
The latency is too high and the nodes drop the request. The magnet link will just hang in your client forever, stuck at the downloading metadata phase.
So what is the technical workaround if I only have a magnet link?
The manuals suggest two distinct paths to bypass this fragility. First, if it's an obscure Clearnet magnet link, use the Luckinet method. Drive the armored truck out to the public internet, use the magnet link there where DHT works perfectly, download the actual media file, and then bring the raw file back to bridge it.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second path?
Second, if it is a native I2P magnet link, use a specific internal Java tool called I2P Snark.
I2P Snark.
This is a highly specialized, lightweight torrent client built natively into the I2P router. If you paste a magnet link into I2P Snark, it is optimized to brute force the I2P DHT network.
Oh, nice.
You let it run long enough to finally gather the metadata. Once it does, you can physically extract a hard .torrent file from I2P Snark's directory.
Ah, so you get the hard file back.
You then take that hard file, which mathematically guarantees firm discovery, and you upload it manually to the Postman website. You bypass the fragile magnet resolution process entirely and give the network a concrete, immutable roadmap.
It always comes back to pinning the hard copy of the flyer on the bulletin board. Okay, let's take a collective breath. We have covered an immense, staggering amount of technical ground today.
We really have.
Let's recap the journey of our data. We started with the sheer frustration of the empty network, the 0% progress bar, and we learned why it fell empty by understanding the tale of two libraries, and how Tor's exit node architecture differs from I2P's internal mesh, creating the content gap.
The content gap.
We learned how to find the secret door by deploying BiglyBT, configuring the SAM diplomatic API bridge, and pointing our application specifically to port 7656. We learned the crucial biological necessity of patience, letting the router warm up for 30 minutes to punch UDP holes through our stateful packet firewalls.
Essential step.
We debunked the illusion of the Enable I2P checkbox, realizing it only provides an invisibility cloak. and learned how to actively announce our files by recalculating Ben-coded data and uploading the hard files to the Postman tracker.
Mixed mode magic.
We solved the crippling speed issues by understanding the asymmetric cryptographic overhead of garlic routing and deployed the highly calculated ultra-fast one-hop rule based on our specific threat modeling.
Tank versus tinted windows.
And finally, we learned how to securely scavenge for obscure white whales using the Clearnet armored truck, perfectly and strictly bound to the Lockatune OS network interface to prevent catastrophic metric routing leaks. That is a lot of computer science.
It is a massive amount of information.
It is highly technical, and if you are a beginner listening to this, you might be feeling that wave of overwhelm creeping back in. You might be looking at this mountain of configuration and thinking, I can't do this.
Which is totally understandable.
But here's the single, clear action we want you to take today. This is your only homework. You don't have to build a full network mixing bridge today. You don't have to edit tracker URLs. You don't have to worry about Ben coding. And you don't even have to look at Clearnet.
Not today.
All we want you to do is download an I2P implementation, whether that's the classic Java router or the lightweight I2PD, install it, turn it on, and just walk away from the computer.
Just let it run. Let it perform its biological warm-up. Let it negotiate its ephemeral ports.
Exactly. Go make dinner. Come back after 30 minutes, open that web console at localhost, and just watch the tunnel success rate climb over 10%. Experience what it actually feels like to connect to an encrypted, decentralized mesh network. Just get the engine purring. That is step one, and it is a massive technological victory all on its own.
It really is a victory.
Yeah.
Because you are taking the first step out of the surveillance state. And as you do that, as you sit there and watch your local router seamlessly integrate into this massive, anonymous web of computers across the globe, I want to leave you with something profound to ponder.
Oh, I'm ready.
It built on that 1% strategy we discussed at the very beginning of the hour. The mathematical idea that a tiny, dedicated vanguard of users systematically siphoning the public internet into this encrypted shadow library could eventually change the entire ecosystem.
What happens when the 1% vanguard becomes 5%? What happens when it becomes 10%?
Exactly. Think about the sociological trajectory of the internet right now. If this decentralized, community-fed bridging strategy actually works, and the sheer volume of data moving across the Postman tracker suggests it absolutely does, what happens a decade from now?
That's a fascinating question.
As the public Clearnet becomes increasingly surveilled, increasingly walled off by subscription models, and increasingly restricted by massive corporate and state interests, more and more normal people are going to start looking for an exit. They're going to look for the secret library.
We will.
Could we mathematically reach a tipping point where the content gap completely inverses? Could this secret club library eventually become larger, more resilient, and more culturally significant than the public internet itself? Right now, we are currently using the massive Clearnet to feed and populate I2P.
Yeah.
But what happens when the shadow outgrows the object casting it?
What happens when the shadow outgrows the object casting it? That is a wild, incredible thought to end on. Think back to the X-ray machine analogy. The Clearnet is the X-ray, seeing every bone, every flaw, logging every single move you make. I2P is the act of stepping out of the machine and into the fog. It's murky, it's highly technical, it requires extreme patience, and it absolutely requires you to actively build the path forward yourself.
Right, once you do.
But once you understand the routing tables and the hops and the API bridges, you are truly functionally invisible. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep exploring the manuals, stay patient with those 30-minute UDP hole-punching warm-ups, and above all, stay curious.